Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video we're going to be reacting to how a piano is made, and this particular video is by the brand Steinway, who make the world's most renowned pianos. So let's get straight into it.
You are about to see those distinctive details of material, construction and precision engineering that make a Steinway piano, whether a grand or a vertical, different from any other piano in the world. 85% of the piano is wood. We inspect every piece of lumber that arrives at our factory to be certain.
So Steinways are probably the most, there's a lot of expensive pianos, but they are one of the most expensive pianos you can get. So you can imagine that a lot of it is like handcrafted. They've sought out the wood. They've done a lot of extra work that maybe like commercial standard pianos they won't have done, which is why they're so special, because they're sort of high-end pianos.
That only the top grade of each wood used will be built into every Steinway piano. The lumber is air dried for up to 1 year and then kiln dried to remove any tendencies for warping and cracking. Now our basic construction begins with the most basic and dramatic procedure of all, bending the rim. Straight-grained hot.
So this, I think they're making a grand piano. They do upright pianos as well, and the difference between an upright and a grand is like this one here. Well, this is a baby grand, where it's got a flat back, and an upright is one where it stands, one that you would normally get in a household. And what they're doing now is they're bending the wood that goes round this particular part. It's very hard to point there. This particular part of the piano here.
Hard rock maple is laminated and glued together in flat grain sets. Flat graining gives a 47% improvement of vibrational characteristics over cross-grained plywood-style sets. Steinway's unique system is to bend both an inner rim and an outer rim at the same time. This is the method that achieves ultimate strength and durability, and the quality of sound distinctive to Steinway. The sets of maple, about 20 feet long, are carried to the press and clamped into position. The press, an invention of C.F. Theodore Steinway, was patented in 1880. They work around from the center outwards, tightening the clamps. What results is a homogeneous foundation of unified inner and outer rim.
I wonder who came up with this design for a piano. There must be something that makes the sound quality better for having it, but that shape of piano, considering it takes so much effort to try and clamp it into one particular shape to get the outer shape of the piano, I wonder who decided that that was going to be the standard shape of a piano.
Capable of standing the tremendous tensions of stringing. Each rim is removed from the press and stored upright in a conditioning room for several months, depending on size. A glued and doweled assembly of case cornice and rest plank are glued into the rim. The rest plank is made of 7 layers of maple, laminated and glued so that the grains cross at 45-degree angles. This is our patented hexagrip construction. It is still ours alone, and the gripping power that this hexagrip construction provides gives every Steinway piano a tuning stability that is by far the strongest in the industry.
This is something that happens actually quite a lot in grand pianos. I would say arguably probably more than upright pianos, although don't quote me on that, is grand pianos tend to go out of tune a lot quicker, or at least mine does, and it might be because of air humidity getting into the piano much easier, and that tends to sort of warp the strings or the wood so that the strings stretch more. And just in case you didn't know, each key on a piano has 3 strings attached to it. And when you play the piano, a hammer hits all 3 strings and they sound the same. So if you have one of those strings that's slightly out of tune, you can really hear it on a piano when one of the strings is out of tune and you play it and it sounds horrible.
The next important components are the soundboard and bridge. The soundboard is made of slow-grown Sitka spruce, a tall evergreen from the Northwest and Alaska. We use the highest criteria to select the finest grade available. It has wonderfully close grains, and the logs are quarter sawn so that the grain runs straight down the length of the board. Nothing else comes close to the acoustical qualities of this wood. To the native properties of the wood, we add an exclusive and distinctive feature, our famous diaphragmatic taper. It is fitted into the piano slightly crowned. This allows vibrations to travel freely along the grain to the...
Yeah, so the way that this works, the way that a piano works, is when you hit when a hammer hits the strings vibrate, and obviously that sends sound waves, and the sound, it reflects off the soundboard, producing a much larger sound than it would otherwise, and then that then projects off of the lid, which then goes out to the audience, which is why grand pianos have a tilted lid, so the sound goes against the soundboard and up against the board and then out to your audience.
To the center, moving more air, increasing the sound, and projecting it. The bridge glued to the top of the soundboard is made of vertical laminated maple, just like the grand rim. The bridge transmits vibrational energy from the strings to the soundboard.
It's interesting to me that they're doing all of this kind of by hand, or they've got people doing each individual element by hand, because it's going to be hard to replicate the same piano twice, which is a good thing, but also that means you might get various factors that can affect the sound that you might not get in other pianos, and it's hard to make sure that it's the same every time.
One important component is the iron plate, cast from Bell quality iron in one piece from our exclusive patents. The soundboard, with its bridge and the cast iron frame, are now assembled inside the piano rim, or the belly of the piano, by a man called the belly man. It is an involved process to get the soundboard correctly placed and the bridge height precisely determined, so that the pure Swedish steel strings we use will have the correct downward pressure or bearing on the bridge all across the scale. The next step in making a piano is adding the strings. The traditional method of stringing by hand is combined with modern technology. The center and upper strings, 3 for each note, are stopped off by the duplex at a precise relative length to the main string speaking length.
This just must take so much time to construct together, and when you put strings, like if you've ever snapped a string on a piano, which you may or may not have done, when you snap a string and you put a new string on, you have to tune it, and it goes out of tune so fast. It's actually the same on a guitar, because the tension of the string changes, and it's not as, it sort of loosens and it's not as tense as it was, so you need to then retune it again. And when you're doing it on a new piano like this, and you've got to do it with over 200 strings, I imagine that's a real pain.
And vibrate in harmony. This duplex scale patent delivers a richness of sound that is characteristically Steinway. The action assembly is mounted on a tubular metallic action frame, another Steinway distinctive patented feature. The hammers for the action assembly are cut from a tapered sheet of felt. A set of hammers is placed in a press and the felt forced into shape for gluing to hammer moldings. All Steinway hammers are made in the Steinway factory. After hammers are glued to the hammer shanks, the whole action assembly and the key frame must be carefully put together and fitted.
So normally on the hammers, obviously to prevent there being any damage or harsh sound, there is a felt coat that goes over these hammers so that the actual felt itself hits the strings. And after a while, if you've had a piano for a long period of time, you get indents in that felt which may need replacing at some point.
Into the instrument. Careful precision is important here because the position of the hammers is vital for their proper striking point on the strings. Measuring the depth of keys travel is another important phase of the regulating process. Special gauges are used to measure the proper depth of touch. Key depth travel is critical. One of the main features of the grand action is those important little half-round bearings on which the keys balance. They're shaped so that the touch point where the key rests on the bearing moves backwards as the key is depressed. This allows for fast return to playing position. Another Steinway patent. It's called the Steinway.
You think of all these details that they're including, all of these these round things and all the rest of it. Who came up? I mean, I know it was Cristofori is the person who came up with the idea of the piano, but who came up with this construct to? Because all we're really doing is pressing a key and making noise with it. That's ultimately what playing the piano is. That's probably a little bit of a reduction, but we'll go with it. And who came up with this concept of such fine detail and needing such a magnitude of like sensitivity with it? It's crazy.
Steinway accelerated action. When all adjustments have been made, the piano is moved to a soundproof room to meet an 88 rubber-fingered mechanical device to break in the action over the entire scale. And now for the voicing. The resiliency of each hammer is crucial. Each is tried note by note, and the action removed, and the hammer subjected to a sticking with a 3-needle device to adjust its resiliency. The action is put back and tone tested again. This process is repeated until the entire keyboard is even in tone quality. In expert hands, the Steinway piano is brought to tonal perfection. Actually, each piano will have its own tonal flavor with various predominant qualities, such as bridge.
This is something that you notice more when you are playing at a professional level. When you're playing each individual piano, especially when they're at this price range, you can really feel and hear the difference in how it sounds when you're playing it. You don't really, I mean, when you're a beginner, any piano is a good piano to play on. But when you're playing, you know, concertos and Beethoven sonatas and things like that, the feel and the sound quality of each piano is different. When I was at music college, each room had a different grand piano in it, and each one had a very, very distinctive sound.
Mellowness, warmth, roundness of tone, and the like. I think that now you have a more complete picture of our company and the way we build our pianos, and why a Steinway piano is different from any other piano in the world. I'm John Steinway. Thank you for watching.
Well, that was super interesting. If you liked this video and you want to see more, then subscribe. And before you go on to this video, be sure to hit the like button, and I will see you next time.